So, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Arts, Languages and Humanities webinar. My name is Suzanne Golden, and I'm the Flexible Learning Development Officer at the Centre for Adult Learning and Professional Development here in the University of Galway. This is the fifth in a series of five webinars that the Centre for Adult Learning and Professional Development has been running throughout the month of July. So just to let you know that this webinar is recorded and that you will receive an email with a link to the recording after today's session. Okay, so we'll move on to the running order for today's webinar, which is as follows. So first of all, we'll have an introduction to our panelists. Then we'll go into a short overview of the courses that we are offering, specifically those that are open now for applications. We'll follow that by having a little chat about micro-credentials and also the process of the recognition of prior learning. And then following that, we will have a question and answer session with our panel members. So I guess on that note, I'm delighted to introduce our panel members to you. Dr. Keith Brown is a lecturer in the discipline of zoology at the School of Natural Sciences here in the university. Dr. Alessandro Costanzo is based in the she's a lecturer on our diploma in Gemmology, and she works in the discipline of Earth and Ocean Sciences, also in the School of Natural Sciences. Then we have Siobhan O'Malley, who is a student from our diploma in French. And we also have Bruce Copeland, who is a student on our diploma in apiculture. And that's bees and beekeeping to you and me. And then I'll be moderating our question and answer session at the end of our short presentation. So first of all, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of a number of courses that are currently open for applications. And I've categorized those into three distinct groups. Excuse me. So first we have a number of language courses, and these are all at level 7. And then we have a number of humanities, science and social sciences programs, and these range in level from level 7 through to level 8, with a number of micro-credentials that also have various levels associated with them. And then finally, we have a number of Irish courses that again are also at NFQ level 7 and 8. So just to give you a visual, I suppose, representation in relation to the National Framework of Qualifications, and this diagram does that. And you can see it's a representation of the levels of learning in the Irish education system. So you can see that we have the courses I'll be talking about today are listed here at levels 7 and 8, but the university obviously also has courses that it offers at level 9 and 10. So let's have a closer look maybe at some of the courses that are now accepting applications for the 24-25 academic year. So first of all, I want to mention the diploma in French. And this is a 2-year part-time course that aims to enable students with an interest in French to acquire a high level of written and oral communication skills. Students also study major cultural issues in the contemporary French-speaking world. And knowledge of French, I suppose, will be offered that will enhance employment opportunities both in Ireland and abroad. And this course has a total of 6 modules, and students will undertake 3 of those modules in each academic year. Then we move on to the diploma in German. And again, this is also a 2-year part-time course, and which aims to help students develop skills to communicate successfully in the German-speaking world. The German language skills are essential in many professions and definitely can increase your employability. This diploma in German is designed for those who have little or no previous knowledge of the language. And again, like the diploma in French, it has 6 modules in total, and students will undertake 3 of those modules in each academic year of the programme. The diploma in Italian follows the same structure as in that it's a 2-year course, but the diploma in Italian is actually a fully online course. And this really takes a collaborative communicative approach, encouraging lots of online interaction. So it really concentrates on all of the 4 main language skills, which are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And this course is designed to give people an enhanced language skills, whether that's for personal, travel, or professional purposes. And like the other 2 language programs I've talked about, it also has 6 modules in total, with 3 of those modules being in each academic year. So then to move on to our diploma in apiculture. So the main aim of this course is to provide a quality 3rd level education on bees and beekeeping. This program is really of interest primarily to beekeepers or those who are considering becoming a beekeeper. The course is delivered over 2 years and students undertake 3 modules per academic year, 6 in total. And there's a lot of applied learning and practical learning in this particular program. It's really useful if you would wish to pursue beekeeping or indeed other bee-related initiatives as part of perhaps a business venture. Our diploma in Irish study is actually a fully online course, and it's an interdisciplinary introduction to Irish studies developed by the Centre for Irish Studies at the University of Galway. It's a 2-year fully online diploma course which provides an introduction to Irish life and culture through a number of disciplines. This course will appeal to those who are interested in Ireland's past and culture, including those who are employed in the tourism industry. And like lots of our diplomas, it also has 6 modules in total, with 3 of them per academic year. So moving on then to some of our major awards that are currently taking applications. So our Bachelor of Arts in Social Care is a programme that provides students with professional education and training in the principles and practice of social care. It's a 4-year part-time course that leads to the qualification of an Honours Bachelor of Arts in Social Care. And this qualification is approved by CORU, which is the Health and Social Care Regulator. So that's a really important aspect to know about that particular programme. Then moving on to our Bachelor of Arts in Community, Youth and Family Studies. And again, this is a 4-year programme responding to the continuing education needs of personnel working in community or voluntary and state sectors that are actively supporting community, youth and family life. So participants in this programme will really develop and enhance their understanding and knowledge and skills that are relevant to the sector. As I mentioned before, it's a 4-year programme and it's a blended learning programme. So learners will have on-campus workshops that are delivered monthly, in addition to online learning that takes place across the duration of the programme. So I also want to flag 3 courses that are delivered in relation to Irish. First of all, we have our Diploma in Irish, our Diploma sa Gaeilge, and that's a 2-year part-time course delivered at level 7. Our Diploma sa Culture Dúchas is a 2-year part-time course, again at level 7. And our Diploma sa Gaeilge Feidhmeach is a 2-year part-time course at level 8. So any learners who are interested in these types of courses can explore our website to find out more specific information about them. So I just want to flag also that opening next April for the 25-26 year, we have 3 additional courses that I just want to mention. So that's a Diploma in Spanish, our Diploma in Earth and Ocean Sciences, and our Diploma in Gemmology. So you might have seen on some of our slides there a reference to micro-credentials. So some of you might be thinking, well, what are micro-credentials? Well, really, they're short accredited courses, and they provide learning opportunities which offer a really highly flexible, kind of bite-sized and accessible way of upskilling and reskilling. Micro-credentials are designed to meet the demands of learners, enterprise and organisations, and many of them have been designed with all of those stakers having input. The University of Galway currently has over 65 micro-credentials on offer, and many of these are in business, management, in the humanities area, and also particularly in the sciences area. So it's really worth exploring those if you're interested in something that's of a smaller duration of time and workload. Information on all our micro-credentials, including their duration, the method of delivery, the course content, and the learning outcomes, are available on our micro-credentials website. I also made reference to recognition of prior learning. And what this is really is a process by which previous learning is formally valued by University of Galway. Through our recognition of prior learning process, your prior learning is identified, assessed, and recognised by the university in relation to a particular course that it offers. Prior learning really is learning that may have been acquired through previous formal courses you've undertaken, or through work experience, or indeed training that you may have undertaken as part of your work role. RPL can be used to gain entry to a course where maybe you don't meet the standard entry criteria. It can be used to earn advanced entry to a course. So, for example, to be admitted directly into year 2 of perhaps a 4-year programme. And RPL can also be used to earn exemption from one or more modules on a programme. And if you want to find out further information about that, you can contact me directly here at the university. So just to flag that a number of our courses do have sources of funding. The courses mentioned here today may be eligible for funding from SUSI. They may be eligible for funding from the Human Capital Initiative Micro-Credential Learning Subsidy, or indeed learners may also be eligible to apply for one of our adult learning tuition scholarships. And information about all of those scholarships is available from our university website. And you can get details by either looking at our website, you can email us at our university address, or indeed you can telephone us on our telephone number and actually get to speak to a live person, which I know many people actually do like to do. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, if that's okay. And we might move on to our panel question and answer session. So Keith, I might ask my panelists just to maybe take off their microphone, because I'll be bouncing to each of you with individual questions. And Keith, I might come to you first of all. So as I mentioned, you're a lecturer on our in our discipline of zoology, and you also teach on the diploma in apiculture. So maybe can you tell us how modules on your course are taught and what type of, I suppose, learning experience learners might expect?
Thanks, Suzanne. Well, we have, as you mentioned, we have 3 modules per year over the 2 years. We cover entomology, we cover behavior and communication in bees and other insects. And then we look at apiary management. And then that's in the first year. And then the second year, we switch over to looking at honeybee health and bee products, and also then honeybee genetics. And they're all blended learning. We do most, if not all, of the lectures online, so that students, if they happen to miss them, even though they're at a repeated time every evening, every Wednesday or every Tuesday, depending what year you're in, those lectures are recorded, so they can be looked at again at any point. And the lectures themselves are generally about 2 hours long, but about an hour and a half of that is the lecture. There's generally a break in between, and there's time to talk to the lecturers during that break and also afterwards, and ask questions and find out. You get an opportunity to quiz experts in their field, because I don't give all the lectures because I'm not an expert in all fields to do with honeybees. So we bring in external lecturers, and they are quite often master beekeepers. And to be able to talk to these people one-to-one and get first-hand experience get their first-hand experience is really, really useful for beekeepers, both beginners and experienced.
Right, that's great. That's really interesting. Yeah.
So if I can I'll just finish up on the point, just the question you asked. The other part of this is we actually have practicals then as well. Yeah. So we have laboratory practicals towards the start of it. So students learn the ins and outs of bees. We do dissect bees if that presents a problem for some people. We do have ways around it. Yeah, to get to know how the bees operate, get to know the various sensory organs of bees, how they navigate in the world. And then we also, particularly in the bee products, we do workshops on wax products, on various other queens themselves, raising queens. So a lot of very practical experience with people who are very experienced in this field.
That's really interesting, because that's actually the question I was going to ask you, Keith, there, just about that mix between learners being on campus and being able to work offline as well. So, you know, and that's obviously a real advantage on that program, that learners get to really get their hands dirty, so to speak, in relation to that real hands-on experience of working with bees.
Yes, it's a key component of it, as hopefully our students will attest to, that purely learning about beekeeping online, you can learn a lot of theory, but you need to get out and open a hive and look in and see what's actually there. You need to take wax products, you need to take other products from the hive, and you need to be able to work with those. It's the only way to learn practical experience. And it's a great bonding experience as well, we believe, for the students, because they're not only seeing each other through screens, we're all living in a virtual world these days to a large extent. So for students to be able to meet, have a coffee before and afterwards, have a chat. We generally keep all these practical sessions fairly light so that people can move around and chat. They're not draconian, shall we say, in outlook. So they're generally good fun, but hopefully the students would attest to that.
Well, on that note, then I might actually come to one of our students. So, Siobhan, I might actually come to you now. So, you're a current student on the diploma in French, and what I suppose the question I want to ask you is maybe, why did you choose this course, and what has your learning experience been like so far?
My choice to come on the course was really just out of personal interest in French, and very much to reconnect with French, because I would have studied it 30 years ago and always enjoyed French, but you know, over time I just didn't maintain that connection. So it was very much a personal reason to pursue the course. There are other people on the course who, you know, I know will be applying it within their professional lives, but mine is very much out of personal interest. My learning experience has been incredibly positive, and I would have been very apprehensive about doing the learning online. I'm not particularly comfortable with technology, so that was my first learning step, was to actually get comfortable with the platform online, and like that was fantastic. I found there was great resources on the university website, on the library services website, different tutorials and all of that. So and actually it's not terribly complicated really once you start playing around with the learning environment. So that was good. In terms of my learning experience on the course itself, I would say very positive. The course is paced really very nicely and in a very relevant way, in that, as you alluded to in your presentation, we study contemporary issues, you know, in French life today. And I found that very useful to be able to then go into French media myself in my own time, to listen to the radio or to listen to some podcasts that our teachers recommended. And so that crossover between syllabus and, you know, being able to do stuff in your own time, I thought was very, very strong, and it really reinforced what we were doing in the class. And what else would I say about the learning experience? Yeah, all the resources, you know, if you miss a class, all the resources are there online. They're not there for just a month or just 2 weeks. They're there for the duration, so you can always dip back into them. And even like over the course of an evening, when we might go off, you know, topic and start talking about something else, but any vocabulary that comes up, so even non-syllabus related stuff, will be notated by the teacher and put up on class notes. So if you miss a class, you really don't miss anything. As far as I know, our classes aren't recorded. I didn't find them if they were. But the teacher is very good at notating all the different stuff that comes up, the vocabulary and everything. So the learning experience is very positive and very complete, I would say.
Okay, that's great, Siobhan. And I think you've given a really good insight into some of the extra skills you actually learn when you're undertaking a course at the university. It's not just the title of the course, but there's all these other transferable skills, I suppose, in a way that learners, accumulate and benefit, by the time they get to the end of the program that they're actually registered on.
Mm-hmm.
So, Alessandra, I might come to you next. So you teach students that are undertaking the diploma in Gemmology. And some of these modules are actually going to be available as micro-credentials in the next academic year. So maybe would you like to give us a short overview of the two micro-credentials that will be available, and maybe why students would be who are interested in gemstones might be attracted to those particular modules?
Yeah, indeed. Thanks, Suzanne. So yeah, you're correct. Everything comes out of the diploma in Gemmology, which is a course that covers a wide range of subjects in the gemmology science, and has a 6-module overall taught over 2 years. So the diploma itself is taking you from the basics of gemmology. So begins with an examination of what gemmology is, the link with mineralogy, chemistry, and geology. And so we look at where the gemstones come from, where they are located, mine, the structure, chemical composition, and classification. Whereas the modules that are offered as micro-credential, they consist of the last 2 modules taught in the diploma. So they teach us a range of laboratory-based techniques used to identify gemstones and provide the student with hands-on experience in identification protocol using a comprehensive collection of gemstones. So gemmology is a practical science. This is what's important here to highlight. So the practicals offer an introduction to the gemmological theory and testing, diamond grading, and jewelry evaluation. So with a fully equipped gemmology lab at disposal of the student will be able to carry out a range of standard and advanced gemmological tests, which are all used to identify gemstone. So they also have a chance to put gemstone under a microscope. And when we talk about gemstone, we are talking both about natural gemstone, synthetic gemstone through imitation. So both modules offered as micro-credential, use 204 and 205, are designed to equip the student with all the tools to able to record the properties in numerous gem variety. In EOS 204, we considered natural and synthetic gemstone, how, for example, synthetic gemstone are created, and how what particular contribute to a value of a gemstone. In this particular module, we study to recognize inclusion and describe inclusion in the gemstone and the significance of an inclusion while valuing a gemstone. So numerous gem varieties are considered, including organic material. And as the apiculture as well diploma, we will have invited lecture. So in this module in particular, in the 204, with an invited lecture, which is an amber expert. So will assist also in a practical focusing organic gemstone. Whereas in EOS 205, this will basically be focusing on taking a deep look into diamonds, their geological setting, the industry, diamond grading. We also have an invited lecture on this, on talking about diamonds and their market. and giving an hand as well in one particular practical, which will be focused on diamond, focus on both mounted and unmounted diamonds. So this is the other thing that we need to be talk about. When we talk about gemstone, we are talking about both rough material and cut material, and both mounted material and unmounted material. So mounted material, you're talking about gemstone that is mounted in a piece of jewelry, and unmounted in just a loose gemstone. For the second module, there will be an option of carrying a one-day diamond grading course at the headquarters of the Gemmological Association of Great Britain in London. These two micro-credentials are for people that are interested just in the beauty of gemstone, or if they're collecting already gemstone, or if they have a passion for buying jewelry, not really understanding what's behind just what you observe. So the micro-credential will give a flavor of the science of gemmology, will deepen kind of the knowledge of gemstone, and while discovering a lot of facts about gemmology, diamond, and all the precious gemstone in general.
That's great, Alex. Thank you so much. I think that's given a really good overview of why those particular two modules might be of interest to people. And we'll all be out, for those who are avid fans maybe of the Antiques Roadshow, for example, that gives a really good insight as to why, particular gemstones might be more valuable than others. And you can get a real idea of maybe why that would be, but if you were undertaking these modules. And so now, Bruce, it's your turn now. You're a student on the diploma in apiculture. So maybe can you tell us a little bit about the learning experiences you've had so far on your course?
Well, I share with what Siobhan has said about the course she was on. The thing I found about it was that being an elderly person, put it that way, and not having been in college for about 50 years, I was very nervous and I lacked confidence. But the moment I arrived on the course, I found that there was great care and attention to facilitating everybody, irrespective of what their situation was. And that is one thing I found about the course, that firstly, it embraced everyone as a group and as individuals, facilitated the group to work as a team, and it facilitated individuals to achieve what they set out to achieve. And for me, having retired from business, I wanted to stay active, and I am a beekeeper, and I wanted to learn more about everything to do with bees and the whole ecosystem and pollination and science and lots of things. And I found the course for me was very inspiring. It challenged me greatly. It has left me until the day I die with an ambition to do more research and to learn more. And I realize that with particularly in the apiculture area, the more you learn about it, the more you realize how little you know. And it's so I think even the lecturers will say that we're all learning, and it's such a vast area. And it was a great experience for me, and very enjoyable experience.
That's very, very interesting, Bruce. And it's wonderful to hear that you've had such a positive experience on your program so far. And I think I'll follow actually with another question for Keith. And in a way, it's linked to kind of what Bruce has highlighted. So obviously adult learners taking flexible and part-time courses usually already have significant experience that they can draw from and that they bring with them when they join programs of study. So Keith, you might tell us a little bit about why you enjoy working with these types of adult learners.
Well, adult learners are some of the best, and sometimes some of the most infuriating people we work with, because they know so much. They have great life experience, some of them more than others. Bruce, I know, has got great life experience. He's a good beekeeper, and it was really good fun working with him. Yeah, from the very start, with the very first introductory lecture that we give and just introducing people, we always talk about, we don't put specifics on it, we don't point to people, but we go like, there are people from this part of the world, this part of Ireland, this part of other part of Ireland, or some people doing this abroad in the UK. But also we talk about briefly the background. We might have somebody who's a medical doctor, we might have somebody who's a master beekeeper already but wants to do part of this. And it just gives the students a broad overview of the depth of knowledge in various fields that everybody has. Some people are really good with IT, some people aren't. And it means that the students are able to talk amongst themselves, get a feel for what their various strengths are, and can lean on each other. We put them together in a WhatsApp group with their permission, of course. And there's a lot of support between the students within that WhatsApp group, and a couple of the lecturers are normally on it as well in order to assist. And it's that interaction with people who come from so many different backgrounds and have so much experience in other areas that we don't have, the lecturers don't have, that really makes it interesting. And really, really nice to work with. They're a really good group of people to work with. A lot of fun, and they're always, the best thing is they're always very, very interested in the subject, because that's why they join.
Yeah, I think, Keith, you've described it. Sounds like a very rewarding experience to be working with the adult learners that are on that particular program, and I think that is echoed with many of the lecturers that work with adult learners across the university.
Yeah, very much so.
Siobhan, I might just pop another question to you. I suppose, you know, as we all know, all courses that lead to an award will have some type of assessment associated with them. So maybe you could just tell us how you have managed the assessment component of your course, and in terms of your time and planning for it, I suppose.
So our course is divided into 2 semesters, and there's an end of semester exam. So those exams are online. The date is well flagged in advance. Our exams were on a Saturday. And so we knew certainly for 6 weeks in advance, maybe more, when the assessment would be. So it gave everybody the opportunity to make plans. And in fairness to, you know, the department, they were very flexible in terms of saying, look, if you have a family wedding or if there's something on that day that you can't sit your exam that day, you know, there was accommodations made for anybody who needed reasonable accommodations. The exams were open book, and that was very useful in terms of, I suppose, focusing us during the term to make good notes, because we'd obviously be able to refer back to them during the exam. We also were given the opportunity to prepare different topics in advance and submit them to our teacher, and they'd review them and send them back to us with comments. And then if those topics came up again during the exam, we obviously had, you know, a nice version of an answer that we could pick out of. And even if it didn't come up in the exam, the fact that we had gone through the exercise of preparing topics, it was just a good exercise to go through ourselves anyway. We also had a language oral submission, which again we did online. We just made our own recording based on a list of questions that would be the normal flow of an oral conversation. Were it done face to face, we just prepared it ourselves, recorded it and submitted it. And then we had an essay. Now, in the French department, they call it a dissertation, which is very off-putting, because you just think this massive, big academic work. I prefer to think of it as an essay, but the rules of academic writing, you know, a dissertation did apply, just albeit less pages. And that actually took a discipline, because it was my first time to write really you know, an academic paper, which just sounds very grand for what it was. But it was interesting, the discipline that was required in terms of structure and in terms of content and everything. So like in your professional life, that could be a very good exercise to have gone through, you know. So, and then the results, just to, I suppose, close the circle, you know, our results were posted online probably a matter of 3-4 weeks afterwards. So the timeliness of the feedback I would consider quite relevant. I probably would have liked a bit of feedback on, you know, where points were lost. That's just me. But I suppose I do understand that that kind of hand-holding doesn't go on in third level as well. But say, first time out with the academic writing, you'd kind of like to know where you on point, you know, where you can tidy it up. So that would have been something that I had to kind of deal with on a personal level. But yeah, the assessment side of things was not too challenging, and I would say a very user-friendly environment. And again, the actual mechanics of it being online and having to tune in at a certain time and download your paper and scan it and return it. It's a little bit of a management process, but it's not impossible.
Okay, that's great, Siobhan. I think you've given a really good insight into what it's like to be a learner and the challenges there are in terms of undertaking assessment and dealing with, you know, planning and managing your time, but also using the resources that are available within the university to, I suppose, develop your skills and develop your listening and writing ability. And I suppose that's what all university courses would endeavour to do. And so, Alex, I'm going to come to you with another question. So I wanted to ask you maybe about progression from those micro-credentials into larger awards. So if a learner takes one or both of those Gemmology micro-credentials, will they earn exemptions if they subsequently go on to do the diploma in Gemmology?
Yes, the answer is yes, indeed. So if you are going to take either one or both micro-credential. So the module, each module is, let's say, 8 weeks. So the full diploma is 24 weeks 24 weeks in total per year. So if you take 1 or 2 modules, then you can just go into the diploma with a large knowledge already acquired on the practical side and on the analyzing gemstone side, but then you are going to go back and deepen the basics of gemmology that you basically jumped because you haven't done any modules from year 1. So you will be exempt of doing those modules in year 2, either one or both. Although, again, this is the first year we offer this as a micro-credential, so it will be work in progress. I'll see how it goes, but I'll probably make available to the student to attend to a couple of sessions if they want to, just to kind of revise in their mind. Exam-wise, the examination in year 1 will be carried normal as 1. So year 1, nothing is going to be touched because both micro-credential are for year 2. So year 1 examination will be taken on together with the rest of the class, whereas the examination will differ in year 2 for people doing the course or that have already taken a micro-credential or both micro-credential on. So the exam will be slightly different, and I would say easier. And as well, if you're only doing the micro-credential this year, or whatever, in 2025, the 2 modules are both in the second semester, again, you will not sit the same exam of the student that are sitting the full diploma. There would be a slightly differentiation, and probably there would be a lot of online assessment linked to micro-credential student.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, they are fundamental for the diploma, and I am going to do a sales speech here. I can guarantee you, if you take a module or two, you will want to go into the diploma and to hear the full story. Because again, the full diploma is built up with a story behind it. And although each module are standing alone, it is nice to have the full vision of the full diploma.
Yeah, and I think what you described there is a really good example of how micro-credentials can be utilized for learners who are looking to dip their toes back into the whole education sphere, but are just not sure if they're ready for a larger program just yet. And micro-credentials really meet that particular need. And also, you know, in terms of recognition of prior learning, you know, we're not going to look for learners to repeat learning if they've already demonstrated that they have achieved it. So that's where micro-credentials are very much linked to the university's recognition of prior learning process. So Bruce, I'm coming to you with my final question. We're nearly at the end of our session today. So really what I wanted to ask you, Bruce, is what impact has the learning you've acquired so far had on you? I know you've touched on it when you answered the first question, but just maybe reflecting back on that again, you know, that impact that you've had so far from the learning you've undertaken to date.
I think it's given me a greater awareness and a greater observation. Every time I go out now, you know, something reflects from the course, something that I've heard from maybe people like John Breen about ants or something, you know, it has really opened my mind. The door is always open, it's never closed. And I'm tuned in now to other aspects of learning through webinars, through contexts I've got through Keith and various lectures on the course to go and talk to others and whatever. So it's really opened me up. It's brought youth back into an old head, put it that way. You know, it's
Well,
fantastic.
Bruce, on that note, I think that's you've described ultimately what we would all hope our university education experience endeavours to develop in our learners. And I think what you've described there is a really good example of the opportunity, I suppose, that education can give us all to reawaken that appetite, I think, to know more, to learn more, and to be really engaged in that process. And I think you've really described it really well. I think we've come to the end of our webinar session. I really want to thank all of our panelists. Your contribution has made this part of the webinar very rich, and you've all given really good perspectives. I think that potential students down the line will really value. So we really appreciate your time, and thank you so very, very much. So on that note, we're going to close our seminar, and I'll say goodbye to all of our panelists this afternoon. So thank you all very much.